Hey everyone, in today's episode, I'll discuss the cheapest suburbs worth buying in the Gold Coast. It's an interesting area because it's obviously probably Australia's lifestyle capital and a place where a lot of people actually go for holidays, a lot of holiday makers there, and it's probably a world famous, I'd say, sort of beachy location. But there's a couple of things that I'll discuss today in the episode. First things first, where Gold Coast top performers have been. Second of all, what are the factors driving growth in the Gold Coast? Third of all, the minimum purchase price needed in the Gold Coast. And finally, the best suburbs for a high-end, middle point, and low-end suburbs. Let's get into it. So the Gold Coast's top performers really have been pretty much in the main coastal section of the Gold Coast. So you'll see here Mermaid Beach, Paradise Point, Coolangatta, Burleigh Heads, Palm Beach, Miami, Helensvale, Broadbeach Waters, Hope Island, Currumbin, then right down to Labrador there. So really it's mostly along the main part of the coast, from pretty much Mermaid Beach, I'd say, to probably Burleigh Heads is your top performing region. You'll notice there that there's only really two out of the top 20 that actually happen to be units. The rest are all houses. So again, when I'm talking here, I'm talking about houses because they are the best performers. So look, in the Gold Coast, there's a few different factors to Sydney and Melbourne, and also even Brisbane, that drive growth a little bit more heavily. So first things first, of course, like everywhere else, demographics drive the market more than anything. So when you're looking in the Gold Coast, demographics do have a large part, but actually the second largest factor really in the coast, funny enough, is lifestyle. And that's something that is a thing in Sydney and Melbourne. It's definitely not as heavy as it is in the Gold Coast, as you can see here. Third of all, restriction of supply. Simply being, if you go to the northern corridor of the Gold Coast, so that's sort of towards your Hope Island, and I'd say especially out towards Nerang, there is like a fair few new estates actually going up that way. So there's quite a lot of new supply coming on the market. And also, the reason I talk about restriction of supply is simply you just don't buy a unit, because the Gold Coast is known for having just these towers and towers and towers of high rises. And believe it or not, they are very cheap. You can buy one, like still a one bed unit in the Gold Coast for literally like 300 grand, but they're historically one of the worst things to buy in the country. Fourth of all is employment. In the Gold Coast, obviously, it's known for being a tourist hotspot, but it's not overly known for having, I'd say, a lot of strong industry jobs. It's not, most of its economy is reliant on tourism and not much else, to be honest. So, but there are pockets where, you do have some government industry and some sort of white collar industry as well. So obviously those pockets where people live do tend to be a little bit better. Infrastructure is another thing. So there's some parts of the Gold Coast that I'd say have quite good infrastructure in terms of services, facilities, and that kind of thing as well. And not only that too, but zoning does play a part too. So by zoning, you'll notice for people who've been going to the coast for probably about 20 years or so. So I've been going since I was a kid. I actually remember Burleigh Head still having a caravan park, believe it or not, in the actual suburb, which is now pretty much all houses and units. So certain parts of the Gold Coast have more, should I say, stronger zoning for higher density. So the reason that those areas can be good for buying is because they're in very hot demand from developers. So they push up all the prices there because they want to put these high-rise towers there. So that's really kind of what I mean by zoning in the Gold Coast. Not only that, but look, the Gold Coast really, for everyone watching, I wish you had sort of been in touch, I'd say about 3 or 4 years ago, around that COVID or before, because you probably could have got a decent suburb in the Gold Coast at the time for, something around the price of $550,000 to $650,000. But since COVID, we've had the prices literally gone up minimum 60 to 70%. In some circumstances, it's doubled. So really, the minimum purchase price now, I think, is around $900,000, the absolute minimum you can get in for, which is pretty insane if you think about it. But yeah, that's really what you're thinking of, and it's really suburb specific as well. So look, in saying that, you're not going to buy Mermaid Beach for $900,000. That ship sailed probably 15 years ago, okay? But realistically, you can still get into the market in a decent suburb for around 900 grand. let's get into some of the best suburbs. So I'm going to start with everyone's favorite point, which will be under $1 million. And the suburb where I said you could buy for still about 900 grand is the first suburb I'm going to mention. And that suburb is Southport in the Gold Coast. So where Southport is, it's basically just in from Surfers Paradise and across the main waterway of the Gold Coast. And Southport really kind of is, it's sort of like your, I'd say uni, your industry, and not only that too, but probably your service town centre of the Gold Coast. Now, being so, Southport has, the hospital, the university, and it has a lot of that kind of like government-backed sort of industry there. So I know fair trading actually happens to be there, and a lot of other government services as well. So look, the thing about Southport too is it actually has the main private school of the Gold Coast, so the Southport School there as well. But it actually has a very high walk score. It's got one of the best in all of the Gold Coast, particularly towards the town centre. So if you look basically here where you can see Southport on the map, the actual word Southport, just around there sort of to the east, northeast, you'll see, and that's basically a town centre of Southport, you'll see how good the walk score is there. So that's basically what you consider on walk score a walker's paradise. So look, that is really good for Southport, and not only that too, but look, about in terms of Southport, like you're getting in very cheap for the Gold Coast now. So look, not a bad suburb to buy in, but again, be careful where you buy, because there are some, I'd say, a little bit more dodgy pockets in the suburb. So just keep in mind of that. Look, another suburb I'd probably consider for around that sort of $1 million mark is a suburb called Varsity Lakes. So look, Varsity Lakes is kind of just in from Burleigh Heads. It's obviously called Varsity Lakes for the numerous number of lakes that happen to be around there, and the sort of canals as well. So look, Varsity Lakes, it's really a family suburb, but to be honest, it's surrounded by some quite expensive suburbs. So you'll notice here, Varsity Lakes is that lighter sort of coloured suburb just in from Miami. You'll see Robina, obviously Burleigh Waters is there, Burleigh Heads too, not overly far, from Mermaid Waters either. All of the suburbs actually around it are more expensive, and you can see that on this heat map here. So, and look, Varsity Lakes is very close to some of the best suburbs, in literally the Gold Coast, like Burleigh Heads, like Miami, like Mermaid Beach. It's close to Pacific Fair. It's close to basically not overly far from, I'd say, even to get down to Coolangatta on the freeway either. It's pretty well located as well. It's close as well to the actual stadium in the Gold Coast too. I forget it. I cannot remember its name because they change it too much. But yeah, it's close to a lot of things. So it's definitely it's a suburb, I'd say, to consider if you want to move to the Gold Coast and you only have about $1 million, or you want to invest there. You're still getting pretty good rent in the Gold Coast as well. Let's get into some more expensive suburbs. So $1 to $1.5 million. And the first suburb I'm going to mention here is the suburb of Miami. So if we went back and we had a look at obviously the top performing suburbs, and that's off CoreLogic RP data, Miami is right up there. And the reason being is it is so close to the Gold Coast CBD. It's very close to Mermaid Beach. It neighbours that and Burleigh Heads, and it has a really beautiful pocket. And there are quite a few detached homes, and a lot of the units actually in Miami as well are sort of built, I'd say, pre-2000, so a lot of them 80s and 90s, some even before that, and a lot of them are low rise. So you can see here some of those sort of just, I'd say, actual I'd say brick and tile roof makeup, and not only that too, but you'll see they're only about 3 stories or 4 stories, so it's not like your 30-story buildings you see in some parts of Gold Coast, and even some parts of Palm Beach, even you see that now in Burleigh too. Some massive high-rises going up, so a lot of it's actually built. But look, it occupies a great pocket and a great lifestyle location as well, and it's got pretty much one of the highest demographics in all of the Gold Coast. And for people in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, the Gold Coast doesn't have as high demographics as really the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast doesn't have as high demographics as obviously its counterpart cities, but for the Gold Coast, this is very good median income. So $1,831 per week household income, and then your median monthly mortgage repayments is only $2,000 a month. So it's almost one on one, those two, but obviously one's like your weekly household income's only a quarter, obviously, of your income required, not income required for a month. So obviously people here have a lot of disposable income, and not only that, but it also means that they have very low LVRs at the moment as well. So good thing to consider in Miami. It is a very good suburb. You need probably about 1.4 to 1.5 million for it at the moment. So it is getting to that upper sort of, I'd say, bracket of that. Look, the second suburb I want to mention is probably my favorite suburb in all the Gold Coast. And I'm a little bit biased because I like surfing, and it is probably one of the best point breaks in Australia. I'd argue Snapper Rocks probably is the best, but the suburb I'm going to mention is Burleigh Heads. And just from this photo, this is just a photo off on Splash, but you'll see how beautiful the headland is. That's a national park there. You know, you've got Koala Park. It's an estate just towards the back of Tullabudgera there. Look, really good town centre. It's got some really good restaurants as well. I know a friend of mine has a partner who runs Light Years actually back there. So Light Years is actually kind of towards North Burleigh, Miami, but that's one that's there, and there's plenty of others in the town centre too. But Burleigh, it's just like a beautiful suburb, and I think it's the most livable suburb of all the Gold Coast. It is easily my favourite suburb of the whole coast. Look, it's known for being very good through multiple people and multiple sites as well. So this is just an article Domain. And it just says the laid-back Gold Coast suburb with double-digit house price growth. And look, this suburb's literally doubled since COVID. But look, it is, as I said, I think it's the best, most livable suburb in the whole Gold Coast. And you know, even for investment, if you're holding it for 30 years, it's going to perform well. Yes, it's done a lot of growth, and it'll probably go slow for the next probably I don't know, five years maybe or so. But if you're holding it long term, it's going to do well. And if you like the sort of Gold Coast and Surf Coast, I'd argue it is the best, most livable suburb on the coast. And even for like big events like Australia Day and New Year's, towards Burleigh Pavilion and the headland, it's just a real kind of like nice atmosphere. So look, definitely a suburb to consider. It is my favorite suburb of the whole coast. And these suburbs actually rent very well as well. Like they rent for like a nearly 4% yield and like $1.6 million, which is kind of insane. You don't really get that anywhere else. It's just because they're so in demand from people who want to live in these lifestyle locations. That's all it really is. But anyway, that's Burleigh Heads. Look, let's get into our top bracket, and not everyone's going to be able to afford these, but look, my favorite suburb in that $1.5+ million bracket is Mermaid Beach. And Mermaid Beach is pretty much the most expensive suburb of the Gold Coast, probably excluding, I'd say, Sovereign Islands. That's up sort of towards, I'd say, Runaway Bayway. It's kind of off the coast. It's like a man-made sort of island section there, and it kind of feels like driving through like an estate on the water of like Florida or Boca Raton or somewhere like that. So it doesn't really feel like Australia. So I don't even want to mention that because it doesn't work. Like I can't even, factor that in. But anyway, Mermaid Beach is pretty much the next suburb down from the center of the Gold Coast. So your Surfers Paradise main beach area, and it's on the cusp. It's basically just in from Pacific Fair. The famous North Cliff Surf Club is actually pretty much right on the corner here. And yeah, it is, in my opinion, probably your best suburb for capital growth in all of the Gold Coast, except it is very expensive. So it's about $2.5 to $3 million at the moment, depending on where you look. I think some sites will even tell you it's a touch over $3 million. But look, Mermaid Beach is basically your, like, I'd say, probably best location in all of the Gold Coast. This is just from the City of the Gold Coast website, and it'll just basically show you that there's everything to do: swimming, surfing, shopping, facilities, and you'll notice here pretty much all of the Gold Coast's most expensive residences are on Millionaires Row in Mermaid Beach. So Millionaires Row is basically the streets that basically line the beach frontage there. So you got places going for easily over $20 million there. So you got them going for, eastern suburbs of Sydney prices, but on the Gold Coast. So pretty much unheard of in all of the Gold Coast. But look, if you got about $2.5 to $3 million, and you want to buy on the Gold Coast, I'd say Mermaid Beach is the best buy. Don't buy Sovereign Islands. It's just like it's not going to do the same as Mermaid Beach. Another suburb is Main Beach. It's the next one I want to mention. Main Beach, funny enough, is actually look, Main Beach is obviously where Main Beach is. But there's actually a pocket of houses in there, and you wouldn't believe it, but there's probably about 60 or 70 houses that are actually in there. So look, they are very tightly held, and they don't come up much. And you probably don't want to fight with the developer over them because they are going to pay anything for them, especially if there's 2 sold or 3 sold at once for the land. But definitely a good suburb to consider. And it's just its location, obviously. It's right next to the CBD. You're next to literally everything there. So, there's a ferry near there. There's literally SeaWorld that's near there too. If you want to walk towards the Spit, it's actually pretty quiet there, funny enough. Some of the main marinas are there too, which is quite nice. But again, do not fight with the developer over this block of land. If you're gonna buy it, make sure you're getting it without a developer fighting for you. And also, not only that too, but make sure I'd probably go there first, probably to both Main Beach and Mermaid Beach, because there's Mermaid Beach, I'd say the northern end especially, but most of these suburbs are surrounded by units, and it's not for everyone. A lot of people, when they live in, especially if they're living to buy there, they want to, so they're living as a family to actually live there, not investing. A lot of people will not be comfortable with high-rise units kind of towering over their backyard and being able to see in their backyard. So I'd recommend probably somewhere like Burleigh or maybe like Miami for people that don't like that with a higher budget. But just go there if you're from Main Beach or looking to buy Main Beach or the northern pocket of Mermaid Beach as well. Look, this is coming towards the end of the episode, but I've got some good news coming up. So there's plenty more episodes obviously coming out, but I'm actually in the process of creating, along with some developers, an actual section of my website that's going to be open, and what it's going to be is really, it's going to actually have a section called Premier Properties. So that's going to be properties that you guys who will sign up have unique access to, that obviously you can then go on and buy if you're looking or anything like that. And it's just there for everyone, just because I only really want to upload properties that really make sense in terms of numbers. It is good for investors and owner occupiers, because I still think owner occupiers do really need to take care of their financial future. And by doing so, you can still buy in a good family suburb that performs well and has everything that you want. So I think consider that if you own occupier, but definitely for investors as well. These are the best performing suburbs and the best numbers you'll get in the country. So for everyone that wants access to those sorts of properties, and in saying that, there are a lot of properties that I'll get pre-market, completely off market. And I even sometimes get, literally vendors coming to me and saying that, and I literally sometimes meet them at open homes coming and saying to me, do you know someone who'd buy this home? So you might even pick it up for tens of thousands of dollars cheaper, simply because they're not paying an agent for all that cash, if that makes sense. So look, just go on to compoundinvest.com.au over the next few weeks, and this will pop up eventually. And I'd recommend signing up for it, because if you are in the market, you want access to these best suburbs and best properties in these suburbs, which I have. So that's just something for everyone to be excited for. And not only that, look, thanks everyone for watching, and I'd appreciate if everyone could subscribe who watches these episodes, because it does help the channel, and we are getting towards that 1,000 subscribers, which is really good and I'm really happy about. But thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.